Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour around the Canon PowerShot SX10 IS. Here it is, the SX10 IS. This is the successor to the PowerShot S5 IS, which makes it Canon's latest super zoom digital camera. Now externally, the new SX10 IS greatly resembles its predecessor, and it also shares many of that camera's features, for example, the flash hot shoe, the fully articulated screen on the back, the DSLR styling, and also full manual control. But of course there's several key differences with the new SX10 IS, most notably its brand new 20 times optical zoom range. So without further ado, let's take a look at this camera's highlights. We'll of course start with that massive 20 times optical zoom range, which equips the SX10 IS with an equivalent coverage of 28 to 560mm. So that's both wider and comfortably longer than its predecessor, and it gives the camera decent wide angle to really serious super telephoto capabilities. The lens is also optically stabilised, and you'll notice that the lens cap now attaches to the end of the extending part of the lens barrel, so it doesn't block it when you're powering it up. Canon also supplies a small lens hood that reverses over the lens housing for transportation. Like most new digital cameras, there's an inevitable boost in resolution, this time from 8 to 10 megapixels, although sadly there's still no RAW recording facilities. Like its predecessor, the SX10 IS features a fully articulated screen on the back which can tilt and flip to any angle. The screen size is exactly the same as before, it's 2.5 inches, but the resolution has been slightly increased. Again, like its predecessor, the SX10 IS features a flash hot shoe on the top. This allows you to mount one of Canon's external speedlight flash guns. I've popped on the Speedlight 580EX2 here, Canon's top of the range flash, and because of the SX10 IS's decent sized grip, you can actually hold this combination quite comfortably. It's certainly a lot more practical than using this size flash gun on models like the PowerShot G10. The movie mode is a highlight of the SX10 IS, even though it still doesn't offer any kind of high definition video recording. You're watching an example of it right now with me stood approximately 1 metre in front of the camera. Here are some other examples. This first clip was taken with the SX10 IS mounted on a tripod and smoothly panning from left to right, and you can see here that the video quality is very detailed. Now, one of the highlights of the SX10 IS's video mode is the ability to optically zoom the lens while you're filming, and this demonstrates the enormity of that 20 times optical range. Here's another example that demonstrates that, and once again we're hand holding the camera fully zoomed in here, so you can see the stabilisation is very effective, and once again you can slowly pull back to reveal the bigger picture. Alternatively, with the camera fully zoomed in, you can capture fairly effective action sequences at quite a distance. Here we've got the camera's autofocus set to continuous, and it's managing to keep the subject in fairly sharp focus. And we're also hand holding this shot, so you're actually seeing the image stabilisation keeping it fairly steady. On top of all that, you also get Canon's latest Digic 4 processor. This equips the SX10 IS with improved face detection, a neat new self-timer mode that actually waits for someone new to enter the frame before it takes the picture, Servo AF for tracking subjects in motion, and also the more efficient H.264 codec for compressing videos. These are also stored in the QuickTime movie format. So now let's continue the video tour with a look around this camera's controls. When viewed from the front, the new SX10 IS greatly resembles its predecessor. You'll notice the two built-in microphones here which deliver stereo sound for movies or when you're using the camera as an audio sound recorder. The built-in flash must be manually popped up, but at least when it's down there's no surprises with it popping up unexpectedly. Above this is the flash hot shoe, and behind that the electronic viewfinder which displays quite a large view. Next to this, the command mode dial that offers program, shutter, aperture priority and full manual control. There's several changes to the controls around the back though. Most notably there's now one of Canon's thumb wheels here, which allows you to very quickly and easily scroll through various menu options. You also notice this big red button here which allows you to start recording video regardless of what mode you're currently in. On the underside of the camera, behind this door, you'll see that the camera is still powered by 4 AA batteries, although we're pleased to report that the SD memory card slot is now at the side of the camera's body here. Finally, the ports are behind two doors here. An AV output that of course includes stereo audio, next to a DC input, and behind this flap a digital USB output. Sadly, there's still no HD connectivity though. Now let's demonstrate the optical zoom range of this camera here at 28mm and now zoomed all the way into the equivalent of 560mm, although as you can see there's a great deal of camera shake visible here. Luckily the camera has image stabilization capability, so I'm going to switch it to continuous mode here and see how that improves it. As you can see, that stabilization is very effective. Now let's zoom back out again, and I'll just mention here that there's two different zoom speeds to the camera. Now, like most compact cameras, you can overlay various graphics on the screen. Here I've got a 3x3 alignment grid, and in the top left corner a live histogram. And you can also choose to customize whether you want the histogram or the grid or 3x2 guidelines. The camera also features Canon's superimpose function menu that lets you adjust things like the flash compensation, the metering, or the image quality. If I press the disk button, we can also change it to the compression setting. And if I move up here, you'll see that the video quality is always available on this function menu. You'll also notice the video recording time in the bottom right corner. Now if I switch the camera to aperture priority, I'll show some of the neat graphics that Canon's got on this camera. As you can see, when I adjust it with the thumb wheel, you get that scale which shows you the full aperture range there and what will come before and after. Canon's PowerShot SX10 IS is a great choice if you're in the market for a quality super zoom digital camera. This model features that massive 20x optical zoom range, a flash hot shoe, a fully articulated monitor, and complete manual control, not to mention stereo sound for movies. So Canon's essentially taken the already very capable S5 IS and made it that much better with its longer and wider optical zoom range. But the SX10 IS is not without its faults. There's visible fringing in the corners of photos with high contrast subjects. There's still no raw recording. Continuous shooting is fairly poor at 1.4 frames per second. And there's no HD movies or any kind of HD connectivity on this camera. Now it's important to note that a lot of these issues are addressed by its arch rival, the Panasonic Lumix FZ28. But that's not to say the Panasonic is necessarily the better camera. Both models have their pros and cons, and it's very important for you to weigh them up. And to make it easy for you to do that, we've listed all the pros and cons of both models in our full review of this camera at cameralabs.com. We've also compared its features against the higher end version of this camera, the SX10 IS, which adds high definition movie recording, 4 frames per second of continuous shooting, and even an HDMI output. So if you're in the market for a super zoom digital camera, head on over and check out our review. There you'll be able to compare the features along with the quality of this camera against the FZ28. You'll be able to see its resolution and noise levels and figure out which one is going to be best for you. As always, you'll find it at www.cameralabs.com.